Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the HEATLEAP project for the very kind invitation to such an interesting project. I'm happy to speak in front of such a diversified publicum, many participants here from the academics, policymakers, possibly and hopefully also district heating and cooling companies, because those are quite crucial in recovering district heating. And last but not least, also the heavy industry is represented among of us. And I underline those ones especially because those are the ones who have the waste heat, where they own it, and they can do something with it. And that's very interesting. And some of them might want to sell it, and some of them were facing all sorts of barriers. And they don't even want to sell it, they want to give it for free. And I think this is quite interesting as a point of observation, that they have a commodity which is valued at the market and which they are ready to give for free, be it now for sort of social responsibility, typical for some locally very well embedded undertakings, embedded in the local and regional economy, but also for their social responsibility in broader sense. So it is difficult for those who have the waste heat to find ways how to sell it. Even for those who want to give it away, it's difficult to find ways how to give it away. So what's the business case actually? You know, and it's turning around of the responsibility. It's turning about of money, and it's turning about of the risk. But let me start at the beginning. I will not repeat at length what was already said. Half of the energy we consume is to heat our homes, offices, private and public buildings, to produce industrial goods and services which we depend on. So half of the energy that we use is there for heating and cooling. The heating and cooling sector is a significant source of greenhouse gas emissions and stays in the spotlight of the green transition. Today's heating and cooling networks and systems need transition from fossil fuels to cleaner, more modern systems in a cost-effective way. The amount of fossil energy that needs to be replaced in the energy system is about 300 to 400 MTOEs. Let's be clear. In 2050, our economy must be decarbonized. And this is not a wish. This is actually the EU climate law, which is already in force. That means for many systems, including for district heating and cooling systems, that they will either decarbonize or they will disappear. And if I say 2050, it doesn't mean that they will all decarbonize or disappear in 2049. That means that they have to start now. And the further they delay this process, the more they are getting closer to the disappear rather than to the decarbonize, I would say, scale of possibilities, what will be happening before 2050. So in other terms, those who start now have good chances to survive. The status quo is no more on the table. And waste heat is an important way towards decarbonization, together with renewable energies. One of the keys in energy transition is a much tighter integration of individual parts of the energy system. Isolated approaches where several parallel vertical energy value chains rigidly link specific energy sources with specific end user sectors, they cannot deliver the greenhouse gas reductions that we need. Already in the governance regulation, which was put in place, there are the cornerstones of a holistic approach of the policy design across of the various domains. In the national energy and climate plans, member states have developed a much better prepared way of addressing the energy system integration aspects. the Energy Efficiency Directive, which is already in force, and that is even more so in the one that is currently in the adoption process. The Energy Efficiency Directive includes a requirement for the member states to carry out a comprehensive assessment of the potential for the application of high efficiency cogeneration and efficient district heating and cooling. And there, the waste heat use is one of the analyzed options for the heat supply. Member states were asked to map in their comprehensive assessments the largest sources of waste heat. This facilitates better awareness of market participation on the potential which is available for a more energy efficient supply and a smaller carbon footprint. Roughly half of the member states did not consider the potential of waste heat in their comprehensive assessments. So the other half, majority of the member states who considered waste heat, they analyzed only industrial waste heat supply. But still, the assessment of the total potential of waste heat in the comprehensive assessment matches or comes to nearly 250 MTOEs, which is a very large portion of the overall energy needs in the EU. And this can make a substantial contribution to the decarbonization of heat supply in the EU. More recently, as a follow-up of the Repower EU and the EU Safe Energy Communication, the member states have reported their immediate and medium and long-term energy savings measures. Also there, member states have indicated the waste heat use from data centers and industry as a relevant policy for the coming years. But now let me come back to the flagrant example of an industrial undertaking which does have waste heat and which, because of some barriers that do exist, wants to give it away for free. Why is that the case? Well, there are several barriers to transfer the waste heat to those who need it, be it the infrastructure, be it the legal constructs that need to be developed and tried out. But in particular, let's be clear, it's about money. And who speaks about money speaks also about risks. So the de-risking is quite an important issue. Not only the technological risks, legal risks, etc. But I mean, if you ever considered including waste heat into a energy supply chain which needs steady heat for several dozens of years, and that's a typical time horizon for such pieces of infrastructure, they are afraid of that the heat source will bankrupt, will move, or will not be there within a few years. And something else will have to be constructed ahead, and these risks have to be priced and has to be calculated in advance. And when it comes to the risk, there is place to de-risking. And there is place also for public hand, because when we are talking about the pilot projects, it's something that is developed for the bringing forward, for the steps forward in the energy transition in the interest of the entire society. And let me therefore speak now about the financing and de-risking instruments that are available at the EU level. So there is the EU budget programs where financial support is available for innovative and pilot projects on waste heat, such as this project, HEATLEAP, as well as for strategic planning for local and regional authorities. The LIFE program is the main policy support program for the environmental, climate and energy policy. Projects on mainstreaming strategies, technical solution, and market update to advance waste heat recovery can apply to both the LIFE climate subprogram and the LIFE clean energy transition subprogram. The difference between the LIFE set is implemented with a prescriptive top-down approach, while the LIFE climate is more bottom-up. The live calls 2023 have just opened in May of this year and will remain open until mid-November 2023. So I hope that some of those who listen are considering or are preparing their application for those projects. In the framework of LifeSet, we have 13 policy calls, 3 of them addressing district heating modernization, clean energy transition in the business sector, and local planning and strategies for the clean energy transition, including for waste heat recovery. And when I speak about waste heat recovery, I would like to remind that we can also speak about waste cold. I don't know what the correct word is because it's such an unusual expression, but I call it waste cold. And one of the obvious applications is by the search of last year's LNG terminals. There's a lot of waste coal which is being just aired in the air, and which can be used in the food industry and cooling of buildings. So let's keep that in mind as well. The EU is also supporting projects like the HEATLEAP to scale up and to commercialize new breakout ideas through the Innovation Fund. The Innovation Fund is financed by the revenues from the auctioning of energy allowances from the EU emission trading system, from the EU ETS. The Innovation Fund is one of the world's largest funding programs for the development of net zero and innovative technologies in the energy industry, intensive industries, in energy storage, innovative renewable energy generation, and since the revision of the ETS, also in the net zero mobility and buildings. If we assume a carbon price of about 75 euros per ton of CO2, the size of the Innovation Fund will be 40 billion euros for the period of 2020 to 2030. And then we have the third call for small scale projects, which is currently open until the 19th of September of this year. The new call will make 100 million euros in grant funding available to small scale projects with a capital expenditure between 2.5 and 7.5 million. The Innovation Fund can finance up to 60% of the total capital expenditure, which I believe starts being interesting even when it comes to overcoming barriers we were speaking about earlier. The projects will be evaluated based on their potential to avoid greenhouse gas emissions, their innovation, their financial, technical, and operational maturity, and their potential for scaling up, as well as the cost efficiency. And with that, I wish you a very successful and good webinar with plenty of good ideas which inspire those who want to invest and which show the way for those who want to invest how to do that.
Yes. Thank you, Radoš, for your intervention. It was clear with a complete overview of the policy. We have seen de-risking and also finance, and also we understand a new definition of waste cold that could be deployed in the next future.